Hello everybody, let me tell you a new story today. A true story from my maternal grandma. People seem to have a natural prejudice against stepmothers, but they are not unfamiliar with them. There are many TV dramas that promote the love of stepmothers, such as the very popular Chinese drama called Home with Kids. Recently, the famous actress Song Dandan is not only a stepmother on TV, but also in real life. There are also dramas like Stepmother and foreign ones like The Sound of Music, in which the pure and beautiful governess eventually becomes the stepmother of 7 children. Many celebrities have also been stepmothers, such as Yan Xuejing, who played Shan Xing, and the famous singer Sun Yue. According to the internet, they seem to enjoy being stepmothers. However, in my hometown, a story about stepmothers is told like this. It is said that a man whose wife had died remarried. The man had a son, and his new wife brought a son with her. In a cold winter, the stepmother's son was wearing a thin cotton-padded coat, while the man's son was wearing a thick cotton-padded coat, but kept complaining about the cold. The man was puzzled and then became angry. He took out a whip and lashed his boy, scolding him, "You little brat! Look at the thick cotton-padded coat your mother made for you. Yet, you deliberately complain about the cold. I think you're making trouble for your mother." As a result, the coat was whipped open, and what flew out was not cotton, but reed cloth. This story is nameless, and its origin is untraceable. It essentially conveys one message: stepmothers are vicious, unreliable, and will not have a genuine love for children who are not their own. I don't have a stepmother, and I have no intention of singing high praises or maliciously slandering stepmothers. I believe whether a stepmother is good or not ultimately depends on her personal character. A kind-hearted, generous, and gentle woman will naturally be a good stepmother. On the other hand, a deceitful, malicious, and venomous person cannot even be a good human being, let alone a good stepmother. Today, I would like to share a true story about a stepmother told by my maternal grandma. The story took place before the liberation, probably occurred around the 1930s. Since ancient times in China, the production, transportation, and the sale of salt have been controlled by the government. Private salt production and trafficking were serious crimes. Therefore, who obtained permission from the government to engage in a salt trade were usually from a well-off family. The story is about such a salt merchant. The salt merchant had married a wife who gave birth to 2 sons. They were a harmonious family until an unexpected disaster struck. The wife died of a serious illness, leaving behind 2 boys, one 6 years old and the other 8. The salt merchant's business required him to be away from home frequently. He would travel by a donkey cart to sell salt, and it was not a trip that could be completed in one day. With no one to take care of the children at home, and not wanting to neglect his business, he decided to find a new wife. Soon enough, he found a young widow. She had been married for only 2 years before her husband died. Her village was not far from the salt merchant's, just about 10 miles away. She brought with her a little girl, not yet a year old, and married the salt merchant. Shortly after the wedding, the salt merchant hurried off to conduct his business again. His departure proved to be a grave mistake. About half a month after the salt merchant left, he heard the terrible news before even entering the village. His 8-year-old son had died. The salt merchant almost fainted. He rushed home to find his new wife, crying and covering her mouth. She explained to him what had happened. 3 days after the salt merchant left, the elder son had a high fever. His fever did not subside overnight, and by the next morning he had died. Since the child was too young to be buried in a cemetery, the villagers helped find a place to bury him before nightfall. Then the woman cried hard, saying she had not taken good care of the family or the children, and had not had time to call a doctor before the child died so quickly. The salt merchant met the villager elders and heard a different version of the story. It turned out that on the night of the child had a fever, his neighbor had heard the child scream loudly, "Mother, don't do this, it hurts." By the time the elders went to see the next day, the child was already dead. The villagers were all talking and found the matter suspicious. But there was no evidence. The salt merchant himself could not believe that his new wife had harmed his son. After taking care of the matters at home, the salt merchant set off again. Unexpectedly, just 2 days out, he encountered a strange event. The donkey stopped moving. No matter how the salt merchant whipped it, the donkey, as if bewitched, would not move. After a while of beating with no effort, and already troubled by his son's death, the salt merchant decided to go home and rest for some days, planning to set out again another day. When he returned to the village late at night, he saw chaos. People were all running towards his house. The salt merchant was puzzled. Upon arriving home, he saw the village elders leading people who had tied up his wife, binding her tightly like a dumpling. The salt merchant was shocked and asked what was going on. He then learned the whole story. It turned out that the elders had known the wife was trying to do something evil. As soon as the salt merchant left, the elders had arranged for strong men in the village to keep watch on the roof of the salt merchant's house. Today, when a child's cries were heard, "Mother, don't do this. Brother is dead. It hurts." The men on watch jumped from the roof immediately, kicked the door open, and saw the vicious wife trying to cut off the younger son's dinding with a pair of scissors. The villagers, hearing the noise, rushed over, all of them grinding their teeth in anger, wishing they could cut the wicked woman into pieces. After hearing the whole story, the salt merchant was furious. He rushed into the room, grabbed the daughter the wife had brought with her, pulled her legs apart with one hand each, and tore her in 2 parts. The elders announced the wicked woman would be subjected to vigilante justice, lighting the sky lantern. Vigilante justice is punishment carried out by private individuals or non-official groups, such as clans or community councils, acting out statutory law. It is essentially the most vicious and satisfying way to kill those they deem deserving of death. Of course, this is not indiscriminate slaughter of the innocent. There are many ways of vigilante justice. For example, the pig cage drowning was a brutal way to kill. Adulterers were stuffed into bamboo cages, weighted with stones, and sunk in the water to cleanse impurity with death. But lighting the sky lantern is much more cruel. The next day, the elders sent people to buy clothes and oil. Thousands and thousands of people from nearby villages came to watch this spectacle. My maternal grandma was also brought to the village by other villagers. The reason she still cannot forget this incident to this day is because of the woman's pig slaughtering like screams and the inhumanity of lighting the sky lantern. What the hell was lighting the sky lantern, everyone? It was a burn the lady alive. About 20 miles away from the village, everyone went in groups. When they arrived, it was already a lot of people. People mountain, people sea. Although vigilante justice was common in folk society before liberation, such a public execution was still very, very rare. The vicious woman was stripped of her clothes, wrapped in 10-meter long white clothes, soaked in oil, and hung on a big tree at the entrance of the village. When the fire was lit, the woman's screams were like those of a pig being slaughtered. The most terrifying thing was that after she was burnt to death, her skull cavity was still heated by the fire. The air inside expanded with a bam. Her skull burst, and her brain tissue splattered everywhere. My maternal grandma almost fainted at the sight of the brain tissue stuck on the tree and was sick for several days after returning home. The story of this vicious stepmother ended like this. Perhaps it was because she coveted the husband's family property. Or perhaps the woman was inherently vicious, or maybe there were other reasons. People have unexpected misfortunes and fortunes, and families can also experience sudden changes. The legal system of society will also change with the progress of civilization. Vigilante justice has long been abolished, but what remains unchanged is one should not harbor harmful intentions, but it is necessary to be vigilant. However, the two dead children were the most wronged and innocent. Okay, everybody, this is the end of the story. Please share what you think of the story in your stories. If you enjoy my work and would like to help me continue to bring this story to you, please subscribe to my channel or like my page. Give a thumbs up to the stories you appreciate and share your thoughts and opinions in the comments. I'd love to read them. Share the stories with anyone who might find them enjoyable. And I need a co-editor, everybody, a native English speaker to make these stories better. Thank you, everyone. This is Alex's Story Time, and I am Alex. I got a lot of good stories to share with you. See you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.